marries Keturah, and they had 5 or 6 kids. Midian was one of those kids. So kill the Midianites means killing one of Abraham's stock and breed. And he also had some concubines, and more kids were by at that time too, by the way. All right. Moses and God murders all the males, mothers, and babies, and kept 32,000 virgins. God said in Numbers 33, drive them out, or I will do to you what I thought to do to them. Deuteronomy 3:1-6. God delivered Og, and we killed all the men, women, and children of 60 cities. Moses said, God is angry. I will die, not making it to the promised land. God said, if you make a statue or an image, you will be destroyed. What's with the caduceus thing and the ark thing, if that be the case? God will send hornets to destroy your enemies, kill nations little by little. God said, any who doesn't listen to God's priest or judge shall be murdered. We put judges and priests in high esteem. Could be one of the reasons. God said, the cities I give you, you must murder them all. He says kill, I say murder. What is murder? My definition? To take human life to fulfill a personal agenda. Now murder can be all-encompassing of a lot of other things, but that's one you can't deny. Deuteronomy 21:18, God ordered, if a father has a stubborn, rebellious son, murder the son. I've been dead 50,000 times over. God ordered, if the tokens of virginity are not found in a girl, murder her, kill her. In a priest's daughter's case, burn her to death. God ordered, if a man has sex with a married woman, murder them both. God will cause your enemies to murder you. Deuteronomy 28:56, probably one of the most impacted ones in the Bible for my money. God said the most delicate woman will eat her afterbirth and her infant. If he's mad at you, this is one of the punishments of notorious Deuteronomy chapter 28, 28:56. God ordered Joshua's army to slaughter men, women, and children. Joshua 7:19. Achan took war spoils. God murdered or burned Achan and his children to death. Joshua 11:20. God hardened the hearts of the people God wanted murdered for their land. There's the object of it right now. Let me give you a little scenario. God says, you've done a great job here and so forth. I got a promised land for you. So I want you to take your family, and we'll go to this promised land. It's going to be a lot better than what you got here. And you believe me. So you pack up your family, take them to the thing, and you look down and say, there it is. And he said, wow, that is a lot better than where I came from. But look, there's houses down there, and there's kids playing in the yard and so forth. Oh, that. He whistles up a war wagon, machetes, shotguns, all kinds of stuff. He says, here, now you go down there and you kill every man, woman, and child, or I'll do to you what I thought to do to them. There's your promised land scenario. Not very pretty that way, is it? But is it inaccurate? It's the same thing. God slew 10,000 people and cut off Adonabek's thumbs and big toe. God murdered 120,000 men that drew sword. Abimelech, God's chosen. Abimelech murdered his 70 brothers. That's just God's chosen. Abimelech is a guy who murders his own 70 brothers. I don't care to finance this character, if he's fictional or not. I really don't. God had Jephthah kill 20 cities and then had his 13-year-old daughter sacrificed as a burnt offering. Jephthah prayed to God, give me victory, I'll give you the first thing that comes to my door. God gave him victory. He went home, first thing that comes to his door is his daughter. He informs her, hey, gotta do you, gotta kill you. He said, okay, I'm gonna go mourn my virginity for 6 months, I'll be back. Okay, so she goes and mourns her virginity, which means she had to suffer not having children before she died. She comes back, he puts her on a spit, does her in, and burns her. God inspired Samson. Remember Samson, the strong guy? God inspired Samson to murder 30 men for their tunics to pay off his debt. Samson had a debt. God said, go into town and murder 30 guys, get their clothes, and bring them back to pay your debt off. It's in the Bible, folks. I didn't make this up. God released Samson's hand so he could murder 1,000 men. Then Samson killed men, women, and himself, bringing down the temple, even more than he had killed before. God has his Israelites attacked Laish. Why do I put this in there? Because Laish is a quiet and trusting people. And God had his Israelite kill them. And why would the Bible call them a quiet and trusting people and have God kill them? Now, Benjamin was a tribe, one of the 12 tribes. Benjamin, he had his own Israelites attack Benjamin, the tribe. And the Israelites asked God, shall I gain war against my brother Benjamites? God said, yeah. They met a second time. God had the Benjamites kill another 18,000 of his own Israelites, the good guys in this case. And then Israelites offered sacrifice to God and said, attack again, I will deliver them to you. On the third day, the Israelites killed 25,100 Benjamites. Israelites murdered Benjamite cities. They destroyed by fire all of their cities. God ordered 12,000 soldiers to murder the women and children. Except for 400 virgins, God murdered all of the Benjamite women. Samuel. God said, smite Amalek, destroy both man, woman, babies, and sucklings. Folks, this is in there dozens of times. I'm showing you different chapters and verses say a few of these things that are like. 1 Samuel 18:25. David, God's chosen, right? David could do wrong. He was a man of God's own heart, he says. Murders and circumcises 200 Philistines. That was a dowry to give King Saul, her father, the 200 foreskins of these enemies, so he could marry his daughter Micah. God says, attack the Philistines, I will deliver them to you. Uzzah got in the tipping ark of God, and God murdered him because he touched the ark. He was trying to keep it from falling. And even bothered David, why did you do that? From 2 Samuel 11, David knocked up Uriah's wife Bathsheba, and then ordered Uriah, her husband, murdered. This is God's can do no wrong, David, man of my own heart. God told David to choose 3 punishments because David did a census. Remember I told you that Satan was introduced? God ordered the census first, 2 books before it, Kings. Then Satan, or was it Samuel? Satan then orders it in 2 Chronicles. Is God and Satan the same character? It has to be for this to be true. And then he says, okay, you may be mad by doing the census. Your punishments are 3 choices. The least of the choices was what David chose. And as a result, God's angel murdered 70,000 of David's and God's Israelites, his own people again. In 2 Chronicles 13:15, God murders 500,000 of his own chosen Israelites. These are his own people. In 2 Kings 2:23, God had 2 she-bears tear 42 children to pieces. That will scare anybody who's totally superstitious. 2 Kings 5 says, God kills and God makes alive. 2 Kings 7:26, God sent lions to kill people who did not know how to sacrifice to God. He's pretty finicky. 2 Kings 19, God's death angel murders 185,000 Assyrians. God said to Satan in Job 2:3, God said to Satan, God's having a little party over his house, and Satan pops by and he says, "Hey Satan, where you been hanging?" "Oh, well, patrolling and roaming the earth." He said, "Well, you see my man Job down there, pies, loves me and all that kind of stuff." And she says, "Hey, you protected him," and all this kind of stuff. And so anyhow, they made a wager. And he says, "Just don't kill Job, do what you're going to do." And as a result, what happens? He kills Job's children, all 10 of them. He kills Job's servants, and he takes away a whole bunch of animals and stuff. Then Job gets infected and all this kind of thing, but he doesn't die. So in Job 2:3, here is the bottom line, folks. This is multi-interesting. God said to Satan, "You enticed," depending on the version of the Bible, "moved, tempted me to ruin Job without cause." God was successfully tempted by Satan. Ever thought of it that way? He was successfully moved by Satan. He was enticed by Satan. Now, why would we have to go to hell for being enticed by Satan if God himself was enticed by Satan? According to Job 2:3. Psalm 137:9. A God-inspired verse. "Happy is he that dashes your little ones against the stones." How would you like to have your little one dashed against the stones and a happy person saying, "Aha, I did it. I'm happy." Sick stuff. Ezekiel 5:11. God said, "I will rob you of your children. I have jealousy, anger, and fury." Here's an admission. What perfect entity could possibly say that? God says, "Slay old, young, maidens, little children, and women. Wipe them out." God says in Ezekiel 18:3, "All souls," King James Version, "lives," in the Catholic Version, "are mine. All sinners shall die." Ezekiel 20:25, "I gave them bad statutes and ordinances so they could not live." God said, "In sacrifice, the fragrance of the burning fat is God's." God said, "I claim the first fruits of your offerings as an appeasing odor. I accept you." He loves to smell the burning fat around the organs, is what that amounted to. Ezekiel 23:36, God said, "Hack them to pieces and slay their sons and daughters." Ezekiel 25, "Know that I am God and I wreak my vengeance. Daughters will be slaughtered." Ezekiel 28, God says, "I will bring against you your enemies that will murder you. I, God, inflict punishments." Ezekiel 39:17, God says, "You have flesh to eat and blood to drink until you're drunk." He wants you to be accountable now. Hosea 13:16, God said, "Dash to pieces the little ones, rip open their expectant mothers." Malachi 1:3, God said, "I loved Jacob, but I hated Esau." Malachi 2:2, God said, "I will corrupt your seeds and spread dung." What's dung? Shit. All over your face. Okay, we're coming down to the wind. Coming to you first for the questions, okay?
Thank you.
Hold on. Luke 19:27. I was asked on a radio show one time, what is your favorite Bible chapter and verse as far as being an atheist? I said, okay, Luke 19:27. Jesus Christ said, when you hear all the misinterpretations and all the out of context raving on this, Jesus Christ said, and as for those, mine enemies, who would not have me be king over them, bring them before me and slay them. Revelation 2:23, the Son of Man, Jesus Christ said, I will kill her children. You know what? He would have to go through me to get to your children. I'm a retired Army officer, and I will not let that happen if I am there. You'll have to take me out first. That ticks me off. And Jesus lost me on those 2 chapters and verses. Now, back to the debating challenge. Other than the myth of creation, what did the biblical God do good for someone without hurting another? Okay, he gave some old women a chance to have kids that they were barren, okay? Okay, that didn't hurt anybody. I agree with that. He also gave Solomon wisdom, didn't he? What did Solomon do with that wisdom? Solomon, number 1, laid 700 wives and 300 concubines. Okay, it may take wisdom to be able to get laid that much. Probably costs a lot too, right? Solomon became the richest man on earth. But God condemned a king being rich in the Torah. Solomon ended up serving other gods. And personally, I think the wisdom took. Thanks. I want to thank Diane, my assistant back there, for putting this together for us.